how can you be submissive to the word of God and reject his culture?
Laws like that, those are called judgments. You got laws, statutes, commandments, and judgments. Judgments are dealing with the consequences of not keeping the law.
We think everything today is better than what it was back then. And really, most times it's the opposite of that.
Crazy, man. So we're more sophisticated, but less civilized. We're probably less sophisticated and less civilized.
This is the We Big podcast, aka the We Believe in God cast. We big, do you? I'm your host, Brother I, with me, Brother Corey, and we about to get right into it. We're talking about culture versus religion. Culture versus religion. So, Brother Corey, you were saying.
Yeah, so I was basically stating that there was a quote I heard recently where someone said, when you divorce culture from religion, let's say you go to a place in Africa and you bring the gospel and you try to give them the religion, but you don't give them the full thing and they can't find a connection to their culture with it. You just give them the religion and no cultural practices or everyday living practices to go with that. Eventually the culture will take over. You get what I'm saying? So if the culture has witchcraft in it, then witchcraft is going to be mixed into, what you're bringing. You know what I'm saying? If the culture has things that are unbiblical, which we've seen in pagan times where they integrated pagan holidays and things of that nature into, the biblical reality that we had back then. And now we have it today as a culture. So all I'm stating is just that, you have to integrate culture. You have to bring biblical culture along with the belief set. So we can't take the New Testament, bring it to people and say, well, yeah, we're just going to keep the New Testament, leave everything else out. We got to bring Old Testament practices, history, every single thing, and apply that. Because if we don't, we're going to get separated from the biblical culture that we should be practicing or trying to adhere to. So, yeah, that was an interesting quote that I heard, man. And I thought it was something worthy of sharing. And, I wanted to get your thoughts on that as well. Because I know you came to me on a separate tip. You had some stuff that you were bringing with the culture thing. I was like, that's interesting, man, because I just heard somebody say this. And they gave some great examples. I wish I could clearly remember what they stated, because they gave some concrete stuff with relation to evangelism and how evangelizing and going to certain places, why it's not effective in some ways. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah.
So what's your question? I want to answer your question directly before I go into my whole little spiel.
How do you feel with regards to culture having to there has to be some connection to the culture and the belief system, because if you separate the two, one of them is going to take over, and usually it's the culture. So if the culture has, let's say, the ideology that the alphabet community stuff is okay and other things that are not biblical are okay, that stuff will start to take the forefront, and other things that might not necessarily align with the belief system that's believed to be the fabric of the country. There are a lot of things that would just creep in because the biblical culture that you're supposed to, bring along with the actual, Bible commands and everything else, the history itself it hasn't taken root, you know what I'm saying? Or it wasn't brought along with those things. So if you're telling somebody, okay, you shouldn't be doing this, this, and this, and this, and this, and you're not giving them a manual on how to live their everyday life and how to avoid certain things, how to do certain things, full instruction, then what can you expect? It's kind of like trying to tell your child, okay, get in that bathroom and clean it. And you're like, okay, well, daddy, how do I clean the bathroom? You got to give them some kind of routine or some kind of instruction on how to do it, or you show them, this is how you clean a bathroom. First, you're going to start over here. You're going to do this, 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 and this. this. And every time you clean a bathroom, you're going to do it like this. You know what I'm saying? Versus you just telling them something, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that the two are connected. And I think when you separate them, the results are evident in today's society in the Western world, because the Western world is supposed to be a Christian, you know, establishment,
Right.
established culture. Or America, I'll say America is supposed to be built on Christian principles and supposed to be this Christian nation.
Mm-hmm.
And what I see is the lack of cultural awareness. When I mean cultural awareness, I mean the culture of the Bible, the culture of the people of the Bible. The
Right.
Bible was written by a specific people, for and to a specific people,
Right.
right? So when you neglect or don't understand the culture of these people, the understanding is then greatly limited or completely skewed based
Mm.
on the lack of understanding the culture. You
Right.
know, it's imperative that you understand the culture. It's imperative that we keep the culture, because how else do we understand and practice what was written and things make sense? This is why you see all these arguments that people make about why the Bible is bad, because they don't understand the culture. They're
Right.
looking at the Bible through a cultural lens of today and our societal norms and our what's socially acceptable, and not
Right.
understanding at all the culture, and not really understanding the flaw in the culture that we have today, thinking our culture is better. We think everything today is better than what it was back
Yeah.
then, when really it's
Yeah.
most time it's the opposite of that.
Crazy, man.
So
We're more sophisticated, but less civilized.
who
We're probably less sophisticated and less civilized.
yeah, that was live. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's how I
Say it
look
one
at
more
it.
time. Say it one more time.
I say we're more sophisticated, but less civilized.
Oh yeah, t-shirt alert. We got to put that on
Yeah.
t-shirt right there. More
Yeah.
sophisticated, but less civilized. And that's very good how you put that. And I think it's accurate, right?
Right.
Man, I'm trying to think. Are we really more
Yeah.
sophisticated? But
It's like
that's debatable too, right?
yeah,
But
that's what I said.
definitely
Or
less
maybe less
civilized,
sophisticated and less
right? It made me
civilized.
think about Ezekiel 33, and the Most High said, "Y'all say my way is unfair, but your way is
Yeah.
unfair," right?
Yeah.
And so not understanding the culture has led to so much confusion, so
Right.
much doubt, so many people walking away from the scripture because things is like, well, why would that happen? Why this? The cultural understanding, cultural awareness would really clarify a lot of the
Right.
misunderstanding. It put things in a much greater perspective as well, more accurate perspective. So if we don't understand the culture, I don't see how you really gonna understand the scriptures.
Right.
And
That's a great point, man.
yeah, I just don't see it. And part of the cultures, the biggest part of the culture, I think, is is what we call the Old Testament. This is what most
Right.
Christians today want to stay away from. They want to
Wow.
dismiss the Old Testament. They want to dismiss it, but all the culture is there.
Right.
How can you
The good,
understand?
the bad, and the ugly.
How can you understand the Bible? How can you understand the culture of the Hebrew people? These are Hebrews. Abraham, Abraham was a Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Noah wasn't a Hebrew, but the Hebrews
He
came,
was the father.
yeah,
Yeah.
came from that.
Wow.
How can you understand the Hebrew people? Understand because is the Most High is the God of the Hebrews. When they were in
Yeah.
Egypt, the God of the Hebrews freed them from Egypt.
Yeah.
The God of the Hebrews gave the Ten Commandments. The
Yeah.
God of the Hebrews spoke to his people and said, "Go be a light to the world. Go be a light to the Gentiles. Teach them
Right.
my ways." This is the God of the Hebrews. So then we have to understand the culture, because the culture of the Hebrews that came out of Egypt was established by the Most High.
Right.
Thou shalt not. Thou shalt do this. Don't do that. On the seventh year, forgive all debt.
Right.
You know,
See, man.
these are all, all this stuff was established in the culture. On the seventh year, or on this, I think, on the seventh year, let the land rest.
Right. All of that. Yep.
When you have crop, don't take everything.
Don't
Leave a
glean it.
corner. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't glean the fields. Leave a corner for the poor.
Right.
This is culture. This is culture. So, uh,
Man. Ah, goodness.
yeah,
When you narrow it in and focus on it like that, like it just brings up so many thoughts, like how people get married today, how we deal with disputes, uh, how we deal with crimes, all of that stuff is culture.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the reason that, like I said, society is uncivilized today is because we're divorced from God's way. Like
Right.
we're more sophisticated, meaning that like we have all these different laws and rules, and we have all this different knowledge, about all these different things, but the know-how on, the basic and the most basic and simple principles we don't have. You know what I'm saying? It's sad, man. It really is. And one thing that comes to mind is just that what we talked about earlier. No matter how far away we we get away from God's culture, His word will remain true. So if we divorce ourselves from that and we try to establish our own culture, like the New Testament, where people try to, it talks about people establishing their own righteousness and things of that nature. The further we go away, the worse things will be. So that's something we have to look at. And also, I noticed that I've seen more false teachings from people that don't understand the culture. You get what I'm saying? People that
Yeah. Yeah. That's how
that
they
that
get they get all
they
confused and mixed
well,
up.
why did God allow people to do this? Oh, well, this doesn't apply today. It's the same thing they do with the Sabbath and other things. They say, well, God didn't allow for this, so you don't have to do that anymore, or that's not lawful anymore, or whatever, whatever. But where do we get that understanding? And it's mainly because I'm gonna tell you why some people do it. Some people do it because it's outside of the comfort zone of the people that exist in the culture that we adhere to today. You know what I'm saying? So in order to make the Bible more palatable and more comfortable, the teachings to be more comfortable, we skew things. But God never said to do that. He never said to skew something to give it to people. Don't water it down, give it to them. I know that it's going to be hard to accept right away. I
Hey,
know that. But in the long run, when it's time for them to understand it, they're going to understand it, even if they don't want to agree with it. You get what I'm saying? It's just like with our parents. Our parents used to tell us stuff when we were younger. We didn't want to listen.
hey,
And then we grew up and then we understood. We bumped our heads enough and we learned, like, yeah, I can't do it my way. I don't know better. You know what I'm saying? So this dilemma we have today with that, man, I would say that like this is probably one of the most biggest issues we have today with regards to misunderstandings in the world. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Um, a lot of Christian teachers, pastors, authority figures and things of that nature, they teach things through a Western lens. So if you're teaching something through a Western lens and that's the only way you can see it, when your members go and read something for themselves and they're looking at it with a clear eye and a clear mind, and they're just looking at it for what it is. What was that word that Christian not Christian, that Catholic person used? You stultify yourself in their sight. You make
Yeah.
yourself look
Yeah.
foolish.
Right.
You know what I'm
You don't know
saying?
what you're
So
talking
then
about.
you
Yeah.
have members coming back to you and ask you, well, sir, I read the Bible and I noticed that God said this, but you teach this. Well, what's up with that? You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you say? There's nothing you can say.
Well, prime example, another good example, right? What we just the lesson we just did last week about divorce. I think a lot of the confusion about divorce comes in because of the lack of understanding of the culture,
Right,
right?
right,
In,
right,
in
right.
in the Hebrew culture, there was no independent women. Women were precious vessels. They were protected and provided for their
Right,
entire life. They went from their father to their husband. And so for a woman to get married and for this man to divorce her or to not provide for her, not protect her, not give her children, this was one of the most shameful, despicable things you can do to a woman
right,
in that culture and that society. So
right.
people looking at divorce and stuff from today's society and saying, well, why they just couldn't do this and why it wasn't none of that. Women wasn't running around sleeping around like that. That was, that was against the law.
Man.
You couldn't practice whoredom in Israel. So, our women had to be protected and be upheld to a high standard. And for a man to divorce a woman, man, that was a cruel thing to do. And he had
Yeah,
to be 100% justified in that. There had to be a real reason. Otherwise, like the scripture say in Deuteronomy, I think it was 22, you know, beat him and he can't marry her. No, he can't
you
divorce her for
can't
no
divorce
reason
her
after
for
that.
all his life. Yeah,
Yeah, for all his life, he got to be married to this woman. So, but these cultural differences explain a lot. It puts things in
Yeah.
perspective, and it also shows how far we've deviated from the Most
That's what I
High's
was
way.
just saying. Yep.
Yeah, it shows how far
The
we've deviated from the Most High's way.
the further away we go, it's like the harder it is for us to grasp the culture. And I'm gonna tell you, I'll be the first to tell you, some things a part of biblical culture are not palatable
Mm-hmm.
to my
Mm-hmm.
Western mind and my Western
Yeah.
way of thinking. But that doesn't mean it's not right.
Right.
That just
Right.
means I grew up in a society that was different. And in order for me to understand those differences, I have to put myself in the shoes of a person that lived back then and to understand their thinking, understand their conditioning. For example, we would talk about renting clothes, how significant that was. And you
Yeah.
were saying
Yeah.
that it was
That's a good
significant
one.
because there were no clothing stores back then. So if somebody rented their clothes,
That.
understood that they had to make garments by hand back then.
Yeah, that would be
You know what I'm
like that'd
saying?
be like the equivalent of crashing your car. You know what I'm saying? Because a group of people start blaspheming against the Most High, or you see a group of people just start making an idol, worshiping an idol,
Right,
and you say, and what are y'all doing? You're gonna invoke the wrath of God, and people
right,
not really listening. You just jump in a brand new Mercedes Benz and just hit the gas and just crash into a wall, jump out
yeah,
the car and let it crash. People like that's gonna get people's attention. That means
right.
that's showing how serious
Some
you are about
something
this.
is going on right now.
Right. And so for a
Something
person
just
to
happened.
for somebody to tear their clothes, understanding the culturally that there were no stores, no convenience stores,
Right,
it took a lot of effort to make clothes. It took a lot to make clothes with different colors and all this. These were very difficult things to come by. Like when they would
right.
dye purple dye, they had to
Yeah.
jump into the ocean or a sea and get this I think it was a clam or something, some kind of
Yeah.
sea creature, and then they would use the
Hmm.
blood from this to make the
To
purple
make
dye.
purple. Yeah.
Like so if you had
That's life.
if you had purple, you know how expensive that would have been, how difficult it is to get purple
Hey,
clothes.
do you know how in the Bible in the Old Testament it talks about purple a lot? Like it just
Yeah,
specifies purple, where this
purple
and this and that,
signifies
and
royalty.
purple. Like
Mm-hmm.
purple. Like, yeah, purple back then,
Was
shoot.
real.
You had purple on. All you wore was purple garments, or like you had a joint, you got purple silk on, like
Man,
yeah,
listen, yeah,
you even touched that.
you paid a pretty penny. You paid a pretty
You
penny
had
for that.
somebody probably lost their life behind that, jumping in the
So
water.
and then okay, so
Yeah,
look, let's look at Joseph.
yeah.
The coat of many what was it, coat of many colors, or what was it
Go to many
called?
colors.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
people don't understand like the Bible, why the Bible emphasized that. That was a big deal to have
right,
a robe or a garment that had multiple colors in it. So for Jacob to do that for his son and the other boys, we didn't get that. Why he get that? Like that was probably
right.
like a lifetime savings or something. It probably took him a lot of years to be able to make a coat of many colors. And for us,
Yeah,
if we ain't got if it ain't many colors, we don't want it.
yeah,
So people don't understand the significance of it. And so then it makes the history make a lot more sense when you
right,
understand the culture. You understand the significance of why Joseph's brothers was jealous of him.
right,
Because he Judah, Levi, Benjamin, I mean not Benjamin, Zebulun, all these, they did so much with Jacob, for Jacob, representing the family doing this, and then here comes Joseph, and you go get out of all us, you give him that. Why?
Hmm.
That's big, bro. That's like a fair family heirloom. That's probably like $1 million check. Why he get the meal?
That's like what was it that somebody stole from Noah or something like that? I think somebody
Supposed
stole
to have been
some.
the coat that God made Adam. It got passed down to
Oh,
Noah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah, 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 yeah,
Cain
yeah.
Cain
I think
stole it.
Nimrod or somebody stole it, right?
No,
Somebody stole
Cain
it.
stole it, and then it got passed on
Yeah,
to Nimrod because it's supposed to,
yeah,
you know, we don't know who Noah would have gave it to. He might have gave it to
right,
Japheth or Shem, but
right.
Not
So
Cain,
Ham took it and gave
Ham
it
stole
to,
it. Just thank
yeah,
you,
and
not
then
Cain. I
gave
said
it to one
yeah.
of his
He took it and gave it to Canaan, and then his son Canaan
yeah,
passed it on to Nimrod, or
yeah.
it passed on
But
from Ham
yeah,
to Canaan, and then Canaan to whoever to Nimrod.
yeah.
So
And it was something similar with I think with the staff that Moses had, if I remember correctly. I have to go back and look in the history, but yeah, certain things got passed down. And yes, garments do last. Like there's a museum, I went to a Christian museum with garments that are like extremely old that are made from linen, but they still They
Yeah.
got them put in these containers, but they still, yeah, they're intact. You know what I'm saying? But the point
Mm-hmm.
is just that, like what you said, man, like culture, man, when you remove that culture and you
You
start,
lose.
yeah,
You lose a lot of understanding of the scripture. So it's important to understand the culture.
right.
It's very
So
extremely
like
important and very relevant.
when people fail to consider that aspect of history and everything else, yeah, we lose. Like you can't take a Bible passage and try to explain it to someone and you don't have the culture
Mm-hmm. The cultural
part
significance of
down,
that
the
time.
cultural
Yeah.
significance. You're reading a scripture and then you're trying to relate it to something today, but you don't have the past uh the past culture understanding of it. So like that's why I think today Bible or biblical culture is like kind of like it's like almost non-existent if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? It's almost non-existent. When I
Yeah.
say it's almost non-existent, the people that make themselves an authority on it don't even adhere to it. It's strange that you can bring something up out of a book that Christians say they believe in. It well, no, that's wrong. Well, God didn't. Like, wait a minute.
So
We be going into your book and trying to show you something that's written here, and you got a problem with it?
well, like, okay, let's go back to the whole dietary thing, right? I want to go to the
Mm-hmm.
dietary thing. Also, I want to touch on people talk about the God of the Old Testament, how he killed so many people. He's different than the God of the New Testament. I want to go
Oh
look at
my
the culture on
goodness.
those things, right? But going with the unclean foods, right? Understanding the culture. So a lot of people may not be familiar with the Maccabees, right? Because this was in
Mm.
the Apocrypha. This was removed. The Protestants had this removed, I think, in the early 1900s, late 1800s. They had
Yeah, I think it was the
they
1800s.
had the apocrypha, what's called the apocryphal books. Well, in there, there's a book of Maccabees. So Maccabees is a story that took place when the Hebrews and the Greeks, right? So the Old Testament kind of drops off at the Medo-Persian Empire, right? You had the Babylonians, then Cyrus came in and instead of the Medo-Persian Empire, and then it kind of just drops off there, and then picks up with the Roman occupation.
Right.
But the Greeks existed between that, right?
Yeah.
So the Maccabees gives a lot of history of the Greeks when the Greeks came in and took over and what they did. So there's a story in there about this woman that had how many sons? 7 sons?
Uh, yeah, I think it was seven.
Something. I forget
I
how
think it
many
was
sons,
seven.
right? And
Or was it four?
four, maybe
I got to go
four. It
back
might have been four.
because yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but the point is that right? So the Greeks were trying to get them to let go of their customs so that they can control these people. And the customs of the Hebrews were problematic because the Greeks were bringing in this free thinking, much of what we see in American society today, right? This
Exactly what we
free,
see today.
yeah, this free flow thinking, and everything is everything. Let's just be peaceful, enjoy life, and do whatever.
Yeah.
So the
What
Hebrews
they were
like,
trying to
nah,
get them to eat though, man.
yeah,
What
we're gonna
was
get
they
there.
trying
We're gonna get there, right? So
to
the Hebrews is like, no, we got in our culture, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't run around naked and play games with Coliseums and the Olympics and all this. Understanding all this stuff was done naked back then. And the clothes today is so form fitting that you can still pretty much see a person's whole body shape with the
Right.
clothes they wear today in these sports. But anyway, so the biggest thing, these people would not eat unclean food, and this was a huge problem. They wouldn't eat the unclean food. So what they're trying to do, they're trying to get them to say if they can compromise on eating pig, and they specifically want them to eat pig. If we give them the compromise on
Mm.
this, then we can, if they've been on this, then we can get them on everything else.
That was the
Well,
thinking. Get
yeah,
them on
that
one thing and it
listen, that's always if you compromise on one thing, you'll compromise on another thing, right? So, if you bend, you'll fold. If you fold, you'll break. So they come to an elder in the community, older brother, well-respected man in the community, say, listen, man, you old, you on your way out, man. Look, we'll give you money, everything, to make your life come, give you everything. All we need you to do is eat a piece of bacon. I'm saying bacon, it didn't say bacon, but eat a little bit of swine's
swine.
flesh, so the people can see there ain't no big deal, because they had decreed that, hey, if you don't do this, we're gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And they say, look, man, we don't want to kill you. We don't want to kill nobody. We just y'all tripping on this pork thing. Just go ahead and show them it's okay to do it. And the old school said, man, what you talking about? What I look like eating this
I done
swine's
lived
flesh
all my life.
to mislead? I done lived my whole life serving the Most High, being obedient. And now you want me to eat this little bit of bacon to not only dishonor my people, disrespect
But
my
to lead
culture,
it
but
straight
then
to
go
you.
against my God, and then lead all them people down the wrong path. Now I'd rather die. Kill me. So I think they kill him.
Damn.
I think
Yeah,
they
he
kill him.
died. He died. He
Yeah,
got killed. Yeah.
they kill him, right? So then what they do is they disrespect the altar and everything. They go up, set
They
up shop.
sacrificing
Yeah, and they
swine.
put this pig on the altar, which is an abomination before the Most High. And this woman got 4 sons. So they tell the son, "Hey man, come here and eat this pork." He said,
Let
"I
me
ain't
go
doing
get
this."
it. This irking me. I forgot how many sons it
Yeah,
was.
and so
I'm
they
pulling
tell
up
her
right now.
they tell her I mean he pulled his boy out in front of the whole congregation, the whole community, and say, "Look, if you don't eat this piece of swine, I'm just gonna say bacon. If you don't eat this strip of bacon, I'm gonna kill you. You gonna and we don't want to kill you." So brother, so brother
Yeah,
Tazalak
it was
said it was
7.
7.
It
Yeah,
was 7.
yeah.
Yeah.
He said
Yeah.
so. He took the oldest one. I believe it was the oldest one went first. Hey man,
Yeah. He went all the way down to the
yeah,
youngest.
eat this
Yeah.
piece of bacon up now. We're gonna kill you. So the brother said, "No, I ain't doing it." Say, man, look, it ain't worth your life for a piece of bacon, man. Just eat the strip of bacon and everything be cool. I ain't doing it. This is how strong the culture was, right?
Yep.
I
7
think
sons. Second Maccabees 7.
so. I don't know if it was him, but they cut. I think it was he was the first one. They cut his arms and legs off,
That was
and
the
then
first, the second
and,
one, I think.
and
First
then
one, they
throw him in a
cut
pot
his
of.
tongue out or something.
Okay, man. Okay, one of them they cut his arms because
Yeah.
he went from brother to brother to brother, and all of
Yeah.
them said no, and they watched each brother get horribly killed. So either first or second one cut his
Like
arms and
torture.
feet off, cut his hands and feet off, and then put him in a pot that had a fire under it, so he couldn't climb his way out of it, and baked and just fried this man to death in front of his mama and his brothers, and one by one they were refused, and they got skinned alive. I mean, they just tortured them, horribly killed them in front of everybody, and then it got down to the last son, the baby boy, and I forget, who was it, Nero? Who was
Man,
the
that's a good question.
forget his name, but he looks at he said, where's these boys' parents? So he go to the mother,
Get
and
to
it's
mama. Yep.
in his translation because he don't speak Hebrew, she ain't speaking Greek,
Let's see. Let me
and
see if I can pull it up. I can
he
tell you
tells her,
right
he said,
now.
"Look, ma'am, can you please tell your son you done lost 6 sons today,
Antiochus.
Antiochus, right? So
Yeah.
you done lost six
Antiochus.
sons today, and it's not worth it to
Or
lose your
Antiochus, however you want to
yeah.
pronounce it.
It's
Pronounce
not
it.
it's not worth. This your last child, man. Don't let your baby go behind a strip of bacon." And she looked at her son, and the Hebrew said, "Listen, son, I'm so proud of my sons right now because y'all standing for God the way y'all. Oh, all this behind a piece of bacon because y'all willing to die for the word of God, right? This is their culture. This is you don't get this kind of resolve by reading the Bible verse.
Right.
This is something that's been practiced by my mama, my grandmother, my father, my grandfather, his daddy, my daddy's daddy, my daddy's daddy's daddy, my mama's 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 mama. This is embedded because this is culture.
Right.
And she said, I don't know
How you formed in my
how
yep. How
how
you
how, how a man so brave and bold as my sons will even inform my. I don't. How was I worthy enough to have these men in my womb to pass through me? What
yep.
And so she said, "Son, listen, stand tall, stand firm." She done lost 6 boys and she didn't fold. She didn't tell her son, "Go ahead, son, just eat the bacon." She said, "Son, stand firm. I'm proud of you."
This the
And
youngest.
yeah, this the baby. This her baby.
Yeah.
And he said, "Listen, I ain't doing it. I ain't eating it either." Right?
Yeah.
So this is what culture does.
It said they did him worse than they did the others.
Listen, the disrespect. Oh, you gonna disrespect me in front of all these people and not gonna eat this swine, make me look bad?
Because he offered them riches and all that.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
the
make you
part
rich.
that he you like, listen, I'll make you rich,
Man,
powerful man.
just eat
All
a
I need
small
you to
piece of
do
this
is
little
eat
bacon,
this.
man. And man, listen, man. Look, all your brothers gone. Like, man, don't do this to your mama, man. Eat this bacon. I'll die. Because the Most High said don't do it. But like I said, this is culture. You understand the culture the Most High established. If you pick up sticks on the Shabbat, I want everybody to get rocks and hit him in the head till he dies.
Right.
That's deep. That's deep, man. That's culture.
Right.
So to understand that culture makes it a lot easier to say, you know what?
Right.
I'm a remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Right. That's a part of the culture. It's not just
I'm
a
gonna follow the
command.
dietary
It's
law
culture.
because you know what I'm saying, and the dietary law just help you out. It don't, it benefits you to do it anyway.
Right.
I'm not gonna steal. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna disrespect my parents.
Right.
I'm not gonna covet with another man. I'm not gonna plot on what
Yeah.
another man have and try to take his wife and try to take his car and his house. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Right.
not gonna worship other gods. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So we got brother Nine in here jumping in right quick. Let me see. There you go. Oh boy, like you had a rough one.
There you go. There you go. Just like old times.
Yeah, I had to do it. I had to do
No, I
it.
was gonna, no, I was just gonna say, man, when you talk about religion versus culture,
Mm-hmm.
one thing about religion is something that can be manipulated and something that can be utilized a lot of times to make people docile. Like y'all spoke about the Greeks. When you talk about the Greeks, one thing they did was they spread their culture or their quote unquote religion throughout every empire that they took over.
Mm-hmm.
We seen the
Mm-hmm.
same thing with the Babylonians, the Medo-Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans, right? From one kingdom to another. But when you talk about culture, culture runs hand in hand with the code of ethics. And in
Yeah.
particular, when you talk about Hebrew culture, you're talking about moral, righteous ethics.
Right.
Whereas religion, you have a sense of a parameter when you're in a religion, but it's a lot more freedom that comes to it. It's a lot more gray areas that come to it. Whereas though with culture is like, no, I know this what I'm supposed to do, this what I'm supposed to do, and this what I'm supposed to do. And this is what my people been doing for thousands of years. And this is what had worked from us and how we benefited from our God.
And to add to what you're saying, and this is a deep thing, man. The way you teach religion or teach a belief system is through culture, because culture is the everyday living.
Yeah.
How do you live it out? I could teach you a rule. I could tell you a rule, but if I don't give you the how to, which is the culture, everyday living, you won't understand it. Just like, for example, we talk about dietary law, right? Well, a dietary law, how that would look in a culture is when I go to this particular country that has this belief system, you won't see those foods that are forbidden in their stores on the shelves for sale. You won't see them. But in a place where there is no culture or the culture is do as you want, you can go and find anything you want. But in a place where, okay, this is our culture. We don't eat this. We don't do this. We don't do this. Da, 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 those things will not be at the forefront. They will be practically non-existent. So today, like going into what the Greeks taught, they taught tolerance. Tolerance, it's like it makes you submissive and easy yielding to new ideas. They took liberty and turned it into where we have this
Liberalism.
party that and made liberals out of it. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is a liberal person. They'll adhere to things that go against their culture if we bring it this way and we enforce it. Because people today, like I said, they're not worried about pleasing God. So it's like, okay, whatever keeps the society at peace, that's what I'm going to do. So like I say that the easiest way to teach a religion, the book can get lost, the text can get lost. But if you've been practicing this for thousands of years, then it can be passed down from generation to generation, and people could forget or even know where it came from. They just know it's a part of the culture. That's why you can go to several places in Africa and find them doing certain things that were written in the Old Testament, but they can't tell you, oh yeah, we got this out of the Bible. No, this is just passed down to us through our ancestors, and we kept practicing it. So culture is important. Culture is everyday living. It's repetition.
Yeah. You gave me, you put triggered so many thoughts, and some of Nyan said, when the first thing he said made me think about the fact that we're replacing biblical culture with European culture, with Western culture.
Right.
Right. And so we have no problem adopting that culture. And so, but when you want to control the people, the first thing you have to do is take away their culture and give them your culture.
Right.
So I'm saying let's understand the biblical culture and try to work our way back to that, because that's what was working for our people. That's what was keeping us out of captivity.
Right.
Is the culture that the Most High established and chasing that culture. And it made me think about I told this story before, but this goes back to culture, right? Once we talk about women are not supposed to be running around unprotected, right? So you had when I was in the mall that time, and I think I don't know, the guy was Indian, Pakistan, I don't know what he was, right? It was one of the little gold booths. The guy selling gold and stuff in the middle of the kiosk in the mall, right? He's Middle Eastern somewhere, India, Pakistan, Arab, I don't know, especially at that time. In my memory, I don't remember either, right? But I remember we sitting there talking.
Likely Indian.
And so he's trying to be cool and deal with quote unquote black culture, you know what I'm saying? Hip hop type, you know what I'm saying? He's trying to be cool. And at the time I'm, you know, I'm all that's cool with me. I'm dapping him up. Yeah, man, what's up? And I'm probably calling the N-word and everything. You know what I'm saying? So
he like,
you know
you
what I'm saying?
called me
Yeah. Habib, my nigga. Like, I'm like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's all good. So you know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
Now he ain't saying it to me. I ain't saying I was giving him a green like them, but I'm just embracing him. I'm really embracing him. We're chopping. I'm thinking it's cool to be cool with the Arab dude or the Indian dude, whatever.
Yeah.
And we talking, so the women walking by, he talking about, yeah, she look good, this, that, and the other. Man, you know, about the sister this and the sister that. I said, yeah. I said, man, hey man, won't you put me down one of the, you know what I'm saying, one of your women.
Yeah. He probably looked at you with disgust.
Hey, my man backed up like, dude, like, nah, we don't do that.
Oh,
nah. Hey,
so you think you can come over here and do it?
Hey, piss me off. Hey, I went off. I can't even say what I said to the man.
Yeah.
But looking back, that's culture. See,
right.
Because of his culture, he gonna protect his women under threat and duress. Because there's no way he was gonna win a hand-to-hand combat situation with me. Wasn't gonna happen. Probably wouldn't even try. Wasn't gonna win. But culturally, he was like, nah, we don't do that to our women. Like y'all do it to y'all women. Y'all let any nationality, any nation of men come and deal with y'all women. We don't do that. Nah, you can't. Nah, ain't that. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of an eye opener to me. Like, you know, looking back, I'm like, man, you know, why is it okay for you to you know, talk to our women, but I can't talk to your women? You know why it's okay? Because I made it okay. It was acceptable. You dig what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm about to bring him in now.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That's a good point.
But culture, you know what I'm saying? The culture. Peace out.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
How you doing?
Peace and blessings out.
Man, doing well, man. All praise to the Most High. This is a very, very interesting topic, man. Very, very thought-provoking because, you know, when I look at culture and I look at religion, I see a lot of similarities, a whole lot. So, I don't know if you guys already had done this, but I'm not in a position to do it. But can we go into some secular definitions of the two, and then maybe some biblical definitions of the two, to see where the separation is?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. So we didn't go into that. We had kind of just started the conversation, but that could be something we could do. We were more so talking about like how where the disconnect is a separation between our belief system and the culture. Because a lot of people today are you're how do I want to put it? You got a Bible in your hand. You got a Bible in your hand, but you got European culture ingrained in you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're using the Bible, and instead of using it to uproot that European culture up out of you, you're trying to justify,
not
what you read there
based on European culture.
Yeah, based on European culture and lenses. So
I see.
You know what I'm saying?
I see. See that, but that's a serious difference. So you just right there, that was good because right there you just clarified and pointed out a significant difference in culture and religion, and that's what I was looking for.
Right. Yeah. So like, this is a big thing today, man. Like, I don't even think people even realize that this is one of the biggest issues that we have today. We have a book in our hands that's from a culture from thousands of years ago that, you know, practically, when I say it's practically non-existent, meaning that the culture isn't a culture that we can just go to several places in the world and find it. Of course, there are groups of people in the world that follow the Torah or whatever to the best of their ability. But we, on the other hand, instead of saying, look, man, we're going to get this book and we're going to follow it, we're going to do what we do, we like, nah, man, we got to make this thing fit our culture because it's a lot of things in here that people read it, they're not going to agree with. So we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to address it.
Yeah.
We just tell them God don't believe in that no more. God allowed this, but he don't want that, and all sorts of things. You know what I'm saying? God don't care about what you eat. God don't care about this. All of these things. And that's a sad thing because that has become the culture. That's the culture now we have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The culture is do what you want almost.
Justify
You know
everything or dismiss anything.
Right. As opposed to saying, okay, I'm going to take this book, I'm going to see what's what, and I'm going to align my life with it to the best of my ability. You know what I'm saying?
I pulled up the definition right here, right? There's several definitions, right? The arts, so culture, the arts, beliefs, customs, institutions, and the other products of human work thought considered as a unit, especially with regard to a particular time or a social group. All right. So beliefs, customs, institutions, all these things, what you believe, right? How you live your life, the principles, all this is steeped in culture, right? Another definition here says culture is the behavior particular to humans, including language, ideas, beliefs, customs, and more. So this is what. So once again, how can you be submissive to the word of God and reject his culture? How? You know,
man.
Brother Nine.
Now you're about to say something.
But
Yeah.
but it wasn't. Was that a real question or was that
I
like
mean,
something
that was
for us
just something to think
upon?
about.
Yeah.
That was something to think
All
about.
right. Because I wanted to say something
Yeah.
about what Corey had said when he said a lot of things in the Bible people wouldn't agree with today. And I feel like that's a serious discussion that we need to have. I was just talking to the brothers in one of the group chats I'm in, saying I want to start doing more podcasts that's really targeting them conversations that Bible thumpers or people that believe in the Bible don't like to have, them uncomfortable discussions because, all right, put it like this, because we're living in a quote unquote Roman society, the whole world pretty much right now, in particular the Western world, it's certain things that have become societal norms in the Western world that was never a societal norm in ancient times, especially in the Hebrew culture. Not to say you didn't find people who practice things a certain way, but it was definitely a variance. You had people that might have did this or people that might have did that. Both ways was lawful. You know what I'm saying? And that goes with more than one topic. But pretty much we got to start getting back to coming with solutions to these different things, because I don't think that just because we're in new times that mean that all these things are done away. And I'm trying not to go into the topic, but y'all know the things
It's a lot of things. It's a few things.
It's a lot of things. Like it's a list.
Yeah, it is a lot of things.
You know what I'm saying?
Whether you talk about things like, whether we talk about, whether we talk about polygyny, it's so many different things we can
Dietary
talk
law.
about. Exactly, dietary laws, all
and
that.
all
We
sorts
need to
of
have
stuff.
roundtable discussions,
Yeah.
and we know we can't execute the law the way that it was back in Bible times. We're not in our own land, and I'm not trying to persuade anybody to try to execute, the law how it was done in the Bible times. But we need to at least know what would have been done to this person if that person did
what
this
was
type
acceptable,
of capital offense.
what was socially unacceptable with our people back then.
Exactly. And maybe we can't judge those people how they would have got judged in the Old Testament, but we know, okay, if this was worth the death penalty in the Old Testament,
It
at the
definitely got to be
least,
unacceptable.
this brother need to be excommunicated from the community, at the least.
I'll say this, man. I find that a lot of the places that still implement some of these things have less crime.
Facts.
Like when I talk, like for example, we talk
yeah,
about judicial. It's places in the world that if you killed somebody, murdered somebody,
carry the dead body.
your life, it's either your life or somebody, the closest person to you that you love.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? That's a scary thing to
That's a
think
game
about, right?
changer. That's a game
So
changer.
think about it. Even if you think I'm gonna get away with it, think about the one person you love being taken away from you.
Mhm.
Right.
So
It's gonna
before
make you
you went
think
out there and
twice.
did something that you shouldn't be doing, you're gonna think, well, man, I can't lose my life, or I go to jail and then they still take this person that I love away from me. How'd my life feel?
It ain't
Or
worth it.
placing, you know what I'm saying? So the law is there not necessarily to be executed. It's there to dissuade people
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
from doing things. And the problem is we live in a society where money is the law. So if I got money, even if I did something, you know, I can talk to a few people, grease a few
Hey,
palms, and
what
get it.
what the Hebrew culture say about that?
You know what I'm saying? No respect of
Mhm.
persons
Yeah,
in
and
judgment.
give
The
blinded,
rich, the
yeah,
poor.
gift
Yeah.
blinded the eye, right? So we don't
Right.
accept gifts.
Yeah, it does say that. Yep. Gift,
Yeah.
it does some things to your mind and your heart. You know what I'm saying? Your eye. And we shouldn't do that. So like all I'm stating is just that I know a lot of issues exist in our community. We still got the same issues that they had back then in biblical time. Murder still exists. All sorts of things still happen. Theft. Um, and they continue to exist. And we haven't fixed them. You know what I'm saying? So the solution would be some of the thing. I'm not saying today we should do all of this stuff, but at some point it's gonna have to come back in. Because I'm gonna tell you, if anarchy were in place and you come into a community and there's no structure, like let's say it's end of the world, there's no governmental law and things like that in place. There's gonna have to be some kind of law established, and I guarantee you, in a lot of places, it's gonna be like, if you do this,
Yeah.
that's your life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you do this, you're excommunicated.
And that's another point I think that needs to be emphasized as well when you talk about the law that the Most High gave, because a lot of people look at those laws and think they were so harsh, right? So 2 points I want to make. So one is that these laws were given to establish a nation of people, to establish a community, a nation. So like you said, you can't have a nation without laws. So these laws were there, and they had to be what they were because you were coming out of an Egyptian
A
culture
lawless place.
that was
at the
totally
time.
different. So these laws had to be there. But another point you made, and I've talked about this before, and I go here because I think this is one of the biggest misunderstandings in the scriptures. You talked about how these laws are meant to be a deterrent, right? To prevent you from committing the crime in the first place. And I always think about the eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
Right.
That's when people say, well, that's done away in Christ. Well, Moses said eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but I verily I say unto you, if your brother's, hits you on the right cheek, give him the other cheek. If he asks you to go a mile, go 2 miles. If he asks for a shirt, give him a jacket too.
Right.
And the point that Christ is making was to have tolerance and patience and mercy with your brother.
Mhm.
And so people often look at that eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Like that means if you take my eye, I can take your eye. That's not how it's meant to be. It's meant to prevent the first person from taking the person's eye. It wasn't meant for you to get revenge. It was meant to prevent you from taking action in the first place. Because like I said, if I tell my son, hey son, whatever you do to your brother, I'm gonna let him do to you.
Right.
So you got to think a person's not gonna just smack somebody just because the sky was blue. Well, no, I'm saying, but not just because the sky was blue. Like if you two brothers or two people that get into an altercation, right? Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. If you take this man's eye, I'm gonna let him take your eye. Why did the first man want to take the person's eye in the first place? It wasn't like the guy was just walking down the street and waving at the birds and saying, I'm just taking his eye. I'm gonna hit him in the eye and knock his eye out of his head or something. No, that person did something to provoke me to punch him in his eye.
Right.
And so the law is saying, if you punch him in the eye, I'm gonna let him punch you in your eye. So regardless of what he did, before I punch him in the eye for what he did, I'm gonna think, man, okay, this man didn't he threw a cup of coffee at my mama. I'm about to go beat him up. But if I beat him up, I'm gonna get beat up.
Right.
So now I got to think how I can't
How
deal
can
with
I
that
resolve
way.
this?
Yeah, because so now I got to have some tolerance, some patience, some understanding, some wisdom, some
You know what
mercy.
that is?
You know what I'm saying? So that's what eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth was meant to be, a preventative measure, not a revenge measure. But we look at it, so we're so warped in our culture that we don't understand how to understand these verses and these laws.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. You know what that is designed to do? To maintain peace.
Yes.
And peace has to be protected with harshness sometimes. When I say that,
Absolutely.
you
Consequences is a necessity.
right, you will go to the furthest extent to protect your home. It's your peace, it's where your peace is, your family, you know, your loved ones. You will go to the furthest extent to protect that. Now, your community is the same way. It's your home. Your house is within a community. So what do you do to protect your community? You have to go to measures, number one, that are harsh. Number one, because it's things that are harsh that you look at are harsh, as harsh, that will keep people from even, bro, I'm gonna do this, but then they like, nah, bro, if we get caught, that's it. That's it. There is no if and a buts. And the community used to participate in this. You know what I'm saying? So if somebody did something, you was at the last stone. You threw that stone. You know what it felt. You know how heavy that stone was. Imagine being in the place that person got hit by. You know what I'm saying? So one of the things that needs to be pointed out as well is that laws like that, those are called judgments. You got laws, statutes, commandments, and judgments. Judgments are dealing with the consequences of not keeping the law. So if you just look at the law aspect and just adhere to that, then you won't have to worry about all the, you know, the other stuff that come with it, the judgment aspect. You know what I'm saying? But some people got to see the judgment and or you know, they got to see that part or hear of it or get a visual for them to fall in line. And that's what our community did. Not only was that stuff taught, the community got to witness this stuff. So if there was a witch, for example, and the witch was out there doing whatever she was doing, the community got to see how that witch was dealt with so that they themselves wouldn't go out there and do the same thing that that witch was doing. You get what I'm saying? So very big, very important. Like you have to consider that culture and law, all of that stuff goes hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. We need all of that. You know what I'm saying? You have to have the law ingrained in the culture, and culture teaches the law. You know what I'm saying? It's everyday living, all of your customs, everything. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, right on with what you said. You muted, right?
Thank you, man. You said let me look silly for 15 seconds, but no. So we talk about the culture thing, and it's still more we can say about culture.
Right.
We can go more on into this, right? But going back to what Tyler Locke asked, let's compare it to religion, right? Understanding, like, so when we talk about culture versus religion, what's wrong with religion, or how should we balance religion with culture when looking at religion? So I'm gonna read this definition real quick, right? Religion is a range of social cultural systems, including designated behaviors and practices, morals, beliefs, worldviews, texts, sanctified places, prophecies, ethics, organizations that generally relate humanity to supernatural, transcendental, and spiritual elements, although there are no scholarly consensus over what precisely constitutes a religion. So religion is, they don't scholars, not everybody, but scholars don't have a unified consensus of what a religion is, right? Let's see a different definition here. Explore, let's see, world religion, no. Comprehensive overview. A religion is that the same thing? A religion is a set of beliefs about the origin, nature, and purpose of existence, usually including a belief in supernatural entities such as deities or spirits that have power in the natural world. So they don't really have a clear-cut definition of religion.
Right.
So what are your thoughts when comparing religion to culture? The difference, the similarities, the connection?
Man, that's a good question. I think there's a big difference. I think a religion can be any belief system, and a belief can exist solely within your mind. You know what I'm saying?
It don't have to be based on nothing.
Right. Don't have to be based on nothing. Don't have to be based on evidence. Doesn't have to be based on truth. It can just be something that you believe. And religion, there are many religions that have been spread throughout the world based on things that people wanted other people to believe based on an agenda they had. You know what I'm saying? So a religion is something that it's basically, how do I want to define it? It's a construct that can be built in many different ways by many different people for many different reasons. Versus a culture has root in something that is from the past. And usually it's some sort of belief system. Maybe it is a religion, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's a religious text. You get what I'm saying? In our case, we had scrolls, we had prophets, and things of that nature. We had a religious text to draw from. You know what I'm saying? And we took those laws, we took those commandments, we took those statutes, and then we made them into everyday life. God told, Moses and Aaron to tell the people, like, this is the culture you have to live in this land I'm about to send you into. If you go outside of this culture and you start doing other things, the land is going to push you out. You know what I'm saying?
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
This is a thought-provoking question.
Right.
Did culture come out of religion, or did religion come out of culture?
Man, that's good. That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a controversial question. I'll say this. It depends on where in the world, because if you're talking about biblical culture, I don't think that was a religion. I don't think those laws and commandments that God gave, I don't look at that as a religion. I don't look at that as, I look at it as, like, for example, we have a constitution today in America. And the Constitution gave, I don't look at that as a religion. I don't look at that as, I look at it as, like, for example, we have a constitution today in America. And the Constitution has all your basic rights in it and things of that nature. The Bill of Rights, then you got the Constitution. And our culture is supposed to be based on that. But now we have a subculture that was brought into play in the early 1900s that usurps that, or tries to usurp, the authority of the Constitution. That's why when you see people go to court and they get cases thrown out, they go back to constitutional provisions, because the Constitution trumps everything. So we have a lot of things in place today where people try to get over on people or mistreat people. And then when they go back to the Constitution and look at what's there, it's like, nope, that person is right. We have to adhere to that. But we were testing you to see how ignorant you were. If we can get it off on you, That's how it kind of is with that. So I would say our laws, statutes, and commandments, that was like a constitution given to us by God. You know what I'm saying? And that constitution keeps us safe. It keeps us in good standing with God. And it allows for us to be able to, continue to dwell in peace, if you will. So,
okay. Well, I'm gonna pass the buck on that question, because I asked that question and some hands went up. So let's go over. I'm gonna try to give them the order they came. Slide over to Brother Tazalak. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. So which came first, culture or religion?
If we're using a definition that was read and interpreted, I would have to say culture. But there is another definition of religion, and it's a more simplistic definition that, I'm surprised that it wasn't there, because it's a very simple definition. And that definition is something that is done repeatedly.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, we say we do something religiously.
Right. So the term religion came from doing something constantly. That's how it became a religion, because you kept doing it. So if we look at that simple definition of religion, then I would say religion came before culture because you had to do it constantly before it became a cultural norm.
Right. Now that
So it just
is another
depends
thing,
on how
cultural
somebody
norms.
Well,
interprets the
well,
definition, because those were some very complex definitions of religion.
yeah.
You
And
know,
like I said,
and
they
that
don't
was
have a
good.
consensus on it. But let
Right.
me read. I think I might ask the question different the second time. So I think the question I wanted to ask more accurately, this may or may not change your response, Brother Tazalak, but did religion come out of culture or did culture come out of religion? I'm coming back to you, Tazalak, and I just want to clarify that and then get your clarified statement or your perspective, and then I'm gonna move on. Okay, maybe he can't.
All
Okay,
right.
there you go.
So
Yeah.
repeat the question real quick for me.
So did culture come out of religion or did religion come out of culture? I think it's a more accurate way I want to ask that question.
Okay. So I would still say the same thing
Yeah,
in that
okay.
case.
Yeah.
If it was something that we do constantly, which makes it religiously, then the culture would be created from that repetition. But if we're talking about the definition as in, something we do um as far as faith based and all those things of that nature, then I would have to say the culture came first, because in order to have something faith based, it had to be embedded in you,
Right.
to become that. So where it started was where it started, which is the culture. But if you know we're talking about that simpler definition of religion, I would say that it became the culture because it had to be done constantly. Like even when the Most High says, like, you know make this a memorial unto all your generations, it wasn't a culture yet.
Culture was being
You know,
established.
it
Yeah.
was being established. So it wasn't established until they did it, and then they did it, and then they did it,
Religiously.
and then it became the culture.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
see, I
That's
like
my
what you
opinion.
brought there, because we look at the term religion from a modern perspective. Like, we hear that word over and over. What's your religion? And people just verbalize what their religion is, but you don't have to necessarily show people with your lifestyle in a way. Oh yeah, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm not this, So like that definition, man, that's something else. I see a 9 hand was up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brother Nine.
Yeah, shalom. Corey, you said one of the things I was literally about to say. I think the word religion, either one or two things. Either it really does mean what, I heard people say it mean in the past, which I haven't really found that definition,
Yeah.
but they say it comes from the Greek word religio, which means to
Mm.
separate, right?
Or control. Yeah.
Then, yeah, exactly. Or, okay, is that separation in a bad sense, or is it just that the word religion throughout the years has taken on a bad, I think I want to say connotation, to where, like you said, we look at that word in like a bad light, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I definitely think that religion came out of culture. The reason why is because in the beginning, with Adam and Eve, I honestly believe that the Most High gave them culture at that time. And even if he didn't do it directly at that time, which I'm pretty sure he did, because we see things like the Feast of First Fruits being celebrated. We see Cain and Abel making a sacrifice, right? So they had some type of culture going on. And then once, sin came, that gave room for quote unquote what I would call religion, which is culture being split into so many different paradigms. And even when you talk about Nimrod, after Nimrod's situation happened, you had more religions that came out of that situation. More religions came out of a religion. So I feel like culture is definitely primary.
Okay. I that makes a lot of sense to me. Dog it. 1 second, guys. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. I don't know. I didn't.
Your video off though. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if you
kicked
did
my
that.
camera.
Okay.
There you go. All right. So listening to everything y'all saying, I wrote this question down. I'm gonna ask it and kind of answer, but can you have one without the other? Right. And I think that's where we kind of started. I just the way everything I'm hearing and my understanding, because I think they're so close in when it becomes culture, it's based on something that's been established and passed on, and repeated in a society, right? Religion is something that's repeated over and over. So, I if I had to say, I would think that you can't really have one without the other. I don't think you can have
successfully at least.
Yeah, let me see. Can you? Because I think the culture, I think religion is part of culture. So I think religion comes out of culture, right? Your culture, your religion is part of your culture, and I think that's the part that a lot of people are not really embracing or considering and applying to their understanding of the Bible and how we believe and practice the Bible, what's written in the Bible, the Word of God. We don't look at it culturally. We look at it strictly religiously, and we separate it from the culture. And our culture separates us from the Bible, especially Western culture. And I think that if we start to understand this Bible from a cultural perspective, a historical perspective, a religious perspective, then it makes more sense. And I think we practice it more accurately. A couple times I've had people say, well, you talk about the Bible like it's a history book. It is a history book.
It is.
And I also talk about the Bible like it's a spiritual book because it is spiritual.
It is.
It's a holy book. It is a cultural book. It is a book of wisdom, right? So I think we have to start to look at the Bible and the Word of God in its entirety. And then we'll get a more accurate understanding and be able to live more accordingly. Because at the end of the day, we need to seek a relationship with God. And we start with his word, knowing what he likes, what he doesn't like, what he loves, what he hates, what he wants to do, what he doesn't want us to do. And then based on those things, we can start to live a life that's pleasing to him and then seek after him. The scripture is clear. Knocking, the door should be open. Asking, it should be answered. Seek and ye shall find. So, but we can't just totally disregard half the Bible or more and then still say, God, I want a relationship with you. God, I want to know you. But I'm gonna dismiss everything that doesn't fit in my society today. That's not a part of my culture today. And that kind of goes to the hard conversations Brother Nine was bringing up. It's a lot of things in there that, because I've had some of these conversations. It's very uncomfortable. It's like, well, man, I know, man, but
what I'm gonna do.
But understanding the culture, man, understanding the culture. A woman was marriageable age was when a woman was able to have children.
Yeah.
And, most girls can, start having children around 14 years old, 13, 14 years old.
Our grandmothers, my grandmother was that way.
Yeah, some sooner. So,
that culture, that's something that, and the thing, go ahead, finish your third round.
I'm just, it's just, understanding the culture and seeing things from their perspective just changes how we deal with the scriptures and really allows us to fully embrace the word of God.
Right.
And really say, instead of us trying to omit some things or change or justify or explain away, we totally embrace the word of God and really put ourselves in a position to have a relationship with him.
Right.
But yeah, go ahead.
Now I was gonna say, man, oh man, I don't want to put this. It's a situation where I don't want to put this. The culture that we're discussing, it's not like it's completely foreign in modern time. Because if you go back a couple 100 years ago or 100 years ago, a lot of our relatives and ancestors practiced a lot of it. You know what I'm saying? Of course, there were certain things we weren't doing, but a lot of it was practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in the past 100 years, we've fast forward, we've Usain Bolt level away from that.
Accelerated from it.
Yeah,
put the wheels on him.
Yeah. We threw the Bible out the window. Got in a Lamborghini and threw the Bible out the window and sped off like this. We far away from, the culture that was established, man. But the thing is, though, the good thing about the Most High and the way he does things. It don't matter what time of history it is. He always has a remnant of people that will have that voice and will say something. You know what I'm saying? So the discussion that we're having here is, this is something we're gonna have to one day address, bringing up biblical culture. And like we saying this, and it sounds cliche, but it is not an easy thing to do, to go in that book and read things and not understand it or not agree with it, because it's not a part of our culture and upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
It can be small, even the smallest thing to the biggest thing. But like you said, we got to learn to embrace God. You know what I'm saying? Like, people have a misunderstanding, for example, of like what a holy man was back in the day. People thought a holy man was soft and, impressionable and stuff like that. Abraham was a man that, when he was with you, he was with you. And Abraham, it's been situations in the Bible, you can find Abraham crying because something happened. They used to embrace each other. They used to cry together back then. But Abraham also pick up that sword and go and go to war, you know what I'm saying? With a soldier. So if it came down to it, my man ain't play no games. Like, he'll get out there and put that work in. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you mentioned Nehemiah, and that burst and hit me like it did when you brought it up, because we used to joke about that all the time, like what Nehemiah said. But that man literally said, "You come back around here
I'm gonna lay hands
and try
on
to
you.
this, yeah, I'm
gonna lay hands
put these
on you,
hands
man."
on you." You know what I'm saying? In the modern sense, yeah, I'll put these hands on you. How many people have read that verse and just went past it? Like, no, this man was not playing no games, and this is a prophet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Was ready to do violence behind something because people was, you know what I'm saying? And that's another thing. The terms we use today for labeling things that God deemed righteous. Oh, God, that was a violent God. Or he was a bloody God. Or God killed more people than the devil. Like, this is stuff you hear people say, like, but you never look at the aspect of what people did that led to the judgment. I always try to bring up those terms, justice and judgment. In order for a person to get justice, there has to be judgment. So if you live in a society where somebody did something to one of your family members or took one of your family members away from this earth, God forbid, you're going to want justice. The only way to get justice is through judgment. Some people look at judgment as violence. I don't look at that as violence. I look at that as justice. You know what I'm saying? I look at it as justice and judgment. There has to be a judgment to reestablish order and set an example that this can't be done anymore. But in the culture we live in today, the example is, if you got money, you can do whatever you want and get away with it. And that's far from God's culture. So this is a good conversation, man. This is something we can go on like
Yeah. So
for
look,
days with, man.
I got a couple, right? So
Yeah.
We mentioned this, right?
Yeah.
Man, I'm losing my voice. So Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 21. Nehemiah says, "Then I testified against them and said unto them, Why lodge ye about the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath." So just what he said, I'm gonna lay hands on you. You do it again, I'm gonna lay hands on you. So it's funny because I'm like, we use that terminology today, man. Maybe lay these hands on you, man. I'm gonna lay hands on you, bro. I'm trying to tell you. So it's funny. It was funny to me, but also I want to go to James 1 and 26, right? James 1 and 26. I'm gonna have to share my screen for this one though. Let me get it here. James 1 and 26. And verse 26 and 27. Let me share my screen right quick while we talking about it, just to get it on here. Let me know when you can see it. I should know. It should pop up on my end when you can see it. Right,
yeah,
boom, there you go.
yeah.
Right there. All right. So James 1 and 26, it says, "If any man among you seem to be religious and bridles not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is in vain. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, to keep himself unspotted from the world." So I want to get the Greek right here. This Greek religious. So it's threscos, ceremonious in worship. That is pious, religious. So how you worship, right?
Right.
And then let's see, it's the same. It's a little bit different, right? So thrakia the thrakos kind of come from the thrakos come from thrakia, I believe, and it says ceremonial observance, religious worshiping. So and then it's the same on verse 27. It's the same thing, religion, which is thrakia, ceremonial observance, religious worshiping. So just wanted to kind of get that definition to put that out there according to scripture. Religion
Yeah.
is ceremonies and how you worship the Most High. So if any man think that he's religious, he has he serves the Most High in a certain through ceremony and certain things. If this man can't control his mouth, his religion is in vain, because the Most High gives a spirit of self-control. So when it says the Most High does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind, that sound mind means self-control. So if you can't control your mouth, you don't have a relationship with the Most High. Your religion is in vain. And if you do have religion, you do have a relationship, and you are serving the Most High, you're worshiping the Most High, then you will be visiting the widows, right, in their affliction, the fatherless. I mean, all these fatherless children that's running around here, that as men, we're not in our community replacing these fathers. And this is why our community is in the way it is. Our culture is the way it is, because we're not being religious in the sense of according to scripture, because we don't understand the culture and we don't embrace that, which all throughout the Old Testament tells you over and over and over again, to take care of the fatherless, to take care of the widows and the fatherless. Right? So widows and fatherless, guess what? I just realized, I just made the connection. They're single mothers. Not all of them. I mean, in today's culture, a lot of them single mother by choice. But a lot of them are single mother, and this is what's plaguing our community: single mother households.
Oh, and
if we were taking care of these single mothers and these fatherless children, our community wouldn't be where it is. Just a little tidbit pop in my head, but
that was ingrained in our culture, all the way down to the aspect of what God demanded us to do with our fields. He said, don't glean everything out, leave some for the fatherless and the widow, so they can come through and get what they need. You know what I'm saying? Because you got this field. You're going to take what you're going to take. You're going to make your money. You got your increase. These people they don't have a field. They can't eat. So, leave some for them. Like even down to that, even just feeding them. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said earlier, we got the same problems that we had back then. It's just about we are not applying what God said to apply. You know what I'm saying? And
our religion is in vain.
Right. And that's why we're at where we're at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and end it right there, man. That's a good place to end it right there. So there it is, the conversation, culture versus religion. We really hope that this benefits those listening. I hope that we can take this and learn from it, start applying it, start going to our scriptures, understanding the culture of it, that way we can get a better understanding of it, and ultimately really truly embrace the word of God and start to develop relationship with the Most High God according to his word. Christ says, them that believe on me as it is written. So we have to believe on God. We have to believe on Christ as it is written. We have to understand the scriptures, know the scriptures, study, understand the culture to get a fuller, complete understanding of the word of the Most High. And then we can, go from there. So this has been another podcast, the We Big podcast, aka the We Believe in God cast, where we big. Do you? Check. Hey.